and we're all good.
Yeah.
Mary and Mark and Diane. Thanks, everybody. We'll call the meeting to order and ask Diane to roll.
Jim Morrell,
I'm here.
Galen Wells,
Here.
Mary Jo Katie, here, Jan Goodcapter. Jim here.
Here.
Matt Mallory,
Present.
Devin Turner,
Present.
Brent Tom, Richard Wilson,
Here.
Roger Lewis,
Here.
and Braden Sis.
I don't see Brady. Not here yet. Yet.
Okay,
Maybe soon.
yeah, maybe.
All right, so we'll go ahead and look at the minutes from last week's April 15th meeting. Were there any edits or update suggestions for those minutes? I had two real quick just clarifications to add. So on page 4 of your packets, the little numbers in the lower right hand corner. The third, on the little numbers in the right hand corner of the packet. 004. I noticed Mary Jo. Page 004 on the lower right hand corner.
That's part of the minutes.
Yes, yes.
That's what I was saying.
Okay, cool. Sorry.
Thank you.
Misunderstood. The third bullet from the bottom, I would just ask that we add, based on discussions with staff and past meetings, to my comment about the latitude that we had to set salaries. We'll be talking about that much more here shortly. And then on the next page, well, it's actually page 6, but page 5.
I got it.
Yeah, 5, page 6. I don't have to fit that page 5, but the sentence that said Jim noted that the opinions discussed will lead to a specified salary amount. So just inserting the words discussed and specified.
Options.
Yeah, the options discussed will lead to a specified salary amount. Are there any other adds or updates?
I
No,
make a motion, we accept the minutes as printed, read.
thank you, Roger.
All the above.
Those edits, thanks. Anybody?
I have another comment.
So right now, Roger made a motion. Do we have a second to the motion to approve the minutes? Somebody can. We can still look here for Mary Jo. You second?
Yeah, I'll second.
So Lee seconded, and further discussion, Mary Jo.
Okay, on page 5. Just below the middle of the page, it says Jim asks what the formula should be for the sheriff's salary. And we have the two options. The third option was the Superior Court one, but the second one was to freeze for now. Or freeze for now and go to the step 10 plus 5%.
So that's the option 1 is to freeze the salary for now and go to the under sheriff salary step 10 plus 5% is option 1.
Okay, so there was another option we put in there. That,
The motion that we took at that time was only between those two. So those are the two options that we were discussing. I agree that there was others, but when we got to that point, we had narrowed the conversation down to those two.
my finger quit working, so the minutes I have that I sent. Diane had the other one is the second option. It doesn't matter. Because it's all gonna be different.
Correct.
Okay, that's all I have.
Thank you. Anyone else? I would entertain a vote on the motion that Roger made to approve the minutes from April 15th. All in favor? I said that one too, but anybody? All right, a little rusty. It's been a whole week. So, on page 7 of our packet, at the top, it also says agenda item 4A. I wanted to walk through the legal interpretations that I had received from Deputy Prosecutor Whitehead. After last week's meeting, I had several questions rolling around, and so I straight away that night wrote those questions down, which were forwarded to you as well. And I asked Mr. Whitehead to comment on those. He did. And so let me review if I could, just so that we're all on the same page. And this will lead into the action items that we will be pursuing tonight. So last Monday, I went back and I reviewed the County Commission's Resolution 2024-002 that set us up as a salary commission. And per Mr. Whitehead's interpretation, he clarified that we are tasked with setting a specific salary, a dollar amount, for January 1 of 2025 and January 1 of 2026. To the extent that the salary that we determined for January 1, 2025 is higher than what it is currently, then that salary would be effective May 1. But going back to May 1 only applies again when we set that initial salary. Further, the next opportunity we have to file official salaries is May 1 of 2026, and that would go into effect January 1 of 2027. So he reviewed the email that you're looking at on page 7 to make sure that everything was accurate. I had interpreted his interpretation correctly, and his intent, as he mentioned multiple times in the email that he had provided back in response to my questions, is that we set salaries. That is very clear about that. And so I'm looking forward now a bit to page 9 and the first question that I pose, 1A little I. And this is repetitive, but sometimes it takes a little while to get things through my thick skull. The Salary Commission is tasked with setting the salaries for the succeeding 2 years, 2025 and 2026. 2024 is a unique year because the Board of County Commissioners resolution states that an increase in salary becomes effective upon the Salary Commission's resolution with the that's filed with the auditor. So if the 2025 salaries are increased, then that becomes the salary for May 1, 2024 through December 31 of 2024 and all of 2025. There's no independent setting of a 2024 salary, simply a reflection of what we determine the 2025 salary as of January 1 to be, if it's increased from what it is currently. After the initial salary setting for 2025 and 2026, then the commission will need to file another salary schedule no later than May 1, 2026 for 2027 and 2028. So back to page 7, what I did was we made a decision last week based on our prior understanding that we had been working on for a couple of weeks at least. So I summarized that we took the 6 elected officials' salaries other than the sheriff, and this is on page 7 of our packet, and used the average median, and we set all 6 salaries to have a salary of $95,979 as of May 1, 2024, and then on January 1 of 2025, increase that to $104,501. That decision that we made does not align with the legal interpretation of resolution 2024-002. So we will need to revisit that decision in our meeting this evening. What I did on the subsequent charts with Tim's help was, this is what the resolution will look like. We'll fill in the blanks of the chart. So we'll have the salary for the assessor, auditor, clerk, coroner, treasurer, county commissioners, presuming that we don't change our decision to keep them all the same, which I think we were pretty definitive on that part, and that part's fine. For January 1 of 2025, and there's an asterisk there that says the initial salary commission's determination is an increase, if it's an increase from current, and therefore would be effective May 1 of 2024. that should read. Everybody with me on the first box, that footnote. I changed it in the second box. And then the same salary, 104,501 for January 1 of 2026. That is what we were respectively were getting to. That was the end goal and result of what we were getting to in our decision. If we wanted to do a two-step increase, that's this just providing you our summary of our discussion in within the legal interpretation that we have, we could also step one, go to 95,979 on January 1 of 2025. And then 104,501 on January 1 of 2026. The 95,979 would then be effective May 1 of 2024.
Excuse me,
Mhm.
in my head, I thought we had the two steps. But that wouldn't work with the resolution. That we would be going up to the 104,501 as of January 1st.
That's correct.
2025.
That's correct. That's
26.
So effectively what we were doing last week by going to 104,501 January 1 of 2025, we were working under the presumption that that salary, that set established number salary would be effective for 2 years, because that's what the resolution says. So therefore, when we put it into the format that matches the legal interpretation of the resolution, it's the same salary for January 1 of 2025 and 2026. Or we can do it in two steps, or we could create different steps. But about what I might do is go through that, the sheriff's salary, see if we can reach a decision with the sheriff's salary, and then back up to undo and redo the decision. But I want to make sure that I'm clear. Thank you for pausing. That's Mary Jo. Any questions on what I've covered so far?
No.
No, okay, so on page 8, what we were discussing when we adjourned last week was the sheriff's salary. And there were two options that we arrived at. We had not made a decision on. Both options provide a specific set salary amount. How we get there, the formula for how we got there is different, but it's not a floating formula as it's not, it's a set salary amount. So one option was both options had no change effective May 1 of 2024. The first option, which I think we were referring to as the cost of living option, was the sheriff's current salary plus 5%, which is 168,237. And that's where that option would have established that salary January 1 of 2025. So in the box there, you just see the same number for Jan 1 of 2025 and Jan 1 of 2026. I wasn't projecting anything else. I was just trying to capture where we were at last week. And on the second option, I think we called this, I kind of had to work with our language, but it's pegged to the Mason County non-repped salary range with 2% ATB. Range 48, step 10. So that 156,411 plus 5% is 164,232. And again, I just didn't want to assume anything. I just captured that number, which is where we were moving things to under that option last week as of January 1 of 2025. So 164,232.
Okay, those are the two that I remember that we discussed, and then we didn't go to the judge's salary.
Correct. Yeah, that's the way I recall it too. So just a couple of reminders. The current sheriff's salary was increased January 1, is presently tied to plus 5% of the undersheriff's base salary. So tonight we need to decide if we use one of the above salary schedules, which would put a new salary into effect May 21, 2024, because either of those are an increase effective January 1 of 2025, or hold the increase or a different increase for January 1 of 2026. So in other words, take these numbers and say no change for January 1 of 2025, and then change it January 1 of 2026. Or use the numbers that we have for January 1 of 2025 and do something different for January 1 of 2026. But what you see reflected on these schedules is where our conversation was at last week, which was move the salary to one of those two options. I calculated what those were, the 168,237 or the 164,232, and make those effective January 1, 2025. Our working assumption again last week and for the last couple of meetings was that then that would be in effect for the next 2 years. So, any questions on that?
How often does the undersheriff's salary get increased?
Annually, I believe, is that right? Annually.
Annually?
Until he'll reach top step and then they'll just be across the boards, like everybody else.
And are we already proposing
Hmm?
to fund that at step 10, which is the highest step?
Which plus 5%.
Plus 5%.
We were trying to anticipate that COLA. So with that, and following along on our agenda, where we're at.
Just so you know, Braden did sign in.
Oh, thank you. Hi, Braden. Thank you.
He's muted though.
He's muted.
Yeah.
There he is. Can't hear you.
Hello, we're good. He's waving. It's all fine.
He's
It's all
trying to
good.
talk.
It's all good. I think he just said hi. So, he'll speak up if he has something more. I've heard his voice.
Oh yeah, no, I didn't know you want me to talk. So no, I've been listening for a little bit. It just took me a while to find the Zoom link and the passcode. Sorry about that, guys.
No worries. We're glad you're here. Thank you. Already on our 5th agenda item for the night, which is continue review and set the sheriff's salary, and that's where I would suggest we begin, is what we were just looking at, and see if we can come up with a determination of the sheriff's salary. One of these two answers or something different. Any thoughts on either of these two answers?
I'd like to make a motion that we adopt number 2.
Okay, so Mary Jo has made a motion to adopt option 2, which is the Mason County non-represented salary with 2% ATB, correct? Which is setting the salary.
5%.
Plus 5%, yes. So setting the
What
salary.
is ATB, excuse me,
Across the board.
across the board?
That would be the COLA that all the non-represented see.
Is there a second to Mary Jo's motion?
Nice.
I'll second it.
Okay, thank you, Jen. All right, so why don't we go ahead and discuss that option?
I guess I would clarify a question on number 2. Start Jan 1, 2025. Is there? Doesn't this salary go back to May 1st, like everything else is?
It
Okay.
would, because it's an increase from the current
Okay,
salary.
that was just my clarifying question, so,
The current salary is,
right, because I think in. Jim in the notes, it's 2, but census paid, Mason County non-represented. It says May 1, 24, no change. That would be. Is that incorrect, or to go back, would you go to the 164? Is that right?
I'm sorry,
Is
So-
that-
Jan 1, so the current range 48, step 10 is 156,411,
Right,
plus 5% is 164,232.
but doesn't this go back to May 1st, once approved?
You're calling me out on the clarity of my email, man. Yes, that is what would happen. I when I was writing this, what was in my mind was what we had been talking about before, which was making a change May 1, and Tim Whitehead clarified that we are not making a change May 1, we're making a change January 1 of 2025. But because the way the resolution was written, and because of that's an increase, the 164,232 is an increase from the $162.26.
Yeah.
It therefore then is effective May 1 of 2024. So yes, thank you for that.
I just want to make sure everybody's,
Got a little asterisk there.
yeah.
Okay.
At the note above here. though.
Thank you, Richard, for looking.
But it does have a little.
Yeah, no,
clarification.
this is really, really important stuff, right? I want to make sure that everybody is
Mm,
like crystal clear. So we're there. So the thoughts are, the motion rather right now is that 164,232, and that would be set January 1 of 2025 and retro to May 1 and be effective through December 31 of 2026.
And then would stay the same. The second year would be.
Correct.
exactly the same.
That's what the motion is right now. Yes.
I have a question for Mary Jo. I would like to get your thoughts on why we should go with the 164 over the 168. Specifically, you know. why-
Basically, he's already ahead of the median.
Mhm.
And he also said he has no problem with the salary where it is.
Okay,
And this also puts him 5% above the top step. And the undersheriff is apparently at step 9.
Mhm.
So this would probably carry him through for 2 years. Until we do it again.
yeah, I just wanted to make sure that I was on the same page for the thought process on that. Okay,
That's my thought process.
Well, and to be clear, so the cost of all this is that we can no longer adjust the salary after today until we do it in May of 26 or 27.
Mhm.
Correct.
And we would be locked in with whatever salary choices we choose until May of 2027 for our choices.
Other thoughts? No other thoughts, Richard?
Your option, you said also, if I'm gathering all this correctly, you said that it's also an option to not do anything until January of 26.
That's correct.
Since you mentioned that they'd already gotten the cost of living increase tied to the undersheriff's
For this year.
for this year.
Yes.
January 1. So it could be sort of split. In that regard, just we wouldn't do anything until,
To clarify, that is, you are accurate.
okay. That would be another option. Then,
Yeah, kind of on that note, since the sheriff position did get a 5% COLA this year, correct? But that's what it's called COLA, or just 5%.
It's not called COLA in the non-reps.
Undersheriff this year?
Yeah.
No, the sheriff,
The
he got a
under,
5% this year.
No, he's always tied 5% to the undersheriff,
and the undersheriffs went
got
up
a 2%.
2% for the COLA, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, across the
We
board.
call it across the board, not COLA.
Okay, so so the sheriff position so far this year, as of today, has only gotten a 2% increase
Correct.
For 2024.
for 2024.
And so effectively, as I think Mary Jo mentions. Or maybe it was, I don't know who it was, somebody just mentioned, the step 10 is. We don't know what the ATB will be next year at this point.
I'm sorry, what?
We don't know what the ATB would be January 1 for 2025, right?
No, not yet. We won't make that decision until budget season.
So we don't have that answer. If the undersheriff stays at step 9, then this still builds in an increase for the sheriff. If the undersheriff increases to step 10, then that increase is already incorporated into this decision. And if it were again to be 2%, just for sake of argument, January 1 of 2025 and another 2% of January 1 of 2026, then what we're referring to as COLA, that the county refers to as ATV, is 4%, which is, or it's a little bit less than 4% when we do the math. So. It's kind of built in. Okay, good, thank you.
Yeah, I think this motion under discussion, ordinance number 2, kind of meets the spirit of what we last discussed. Last meeting. Those of us still remember the whole meeting.
And Jen agrees, is that what you said, Jen?
Yeah, excuse me, yes.
Okay, good, okay. So anybody else, Roger or Lee or Braden?
I'm in agreement with step, with the option for the, option 2.
All right, good, good. Braden, do you have any clarifications that you'd like, or is that?
I mean, so the motion on the table right now is for option 1 would be, let's see, I mean, both options are an increase, correct?
Both options are an increase. The motion on the table right now is for option 2, which is
Okay.
moving the sheriff's salary to 164,232 as of January 1 of 2025.
Okay. And then there's an option that we, take no action, which would just freeze the salary at what it is right now.
That is an option as well.
I mean, I think all of this is we want to make sure that our elected officials are fairly compensated relative to what their, colleagues are in other fields. And I mean, based on that principle, if they're, at current market value, I just, it makes it hard to see why we should increase a salary if they're already fairly compensated. And so that's kind of my thoughts on it. I just, layman's terms.
Mm-hmm. I got you. Appreciate that. And thank you for sharing that, because I want to make sure that everybody's voices were heard. So
Yeah, absolutely. I know. I didn't. Yeah.
yeah. So I think we've heard from everyone, and we could proceed for taking a vote on the motion to adopt the second option. This vote does require 7 members to support the motion in order to pass. And so just to review, this is what we're calling the Mason County non-rep salary range with 2% ATV range 48 step 10 plus 5%. And that is a salary of 164,232 effective January 1 of 2025, remaining the same January 1 of 2026. And because that salary is greater than the current salary, it would become effective May 1 of 2024. That said, Diane, if you mind calling the roll for that, please. Thank you.
Jim?
I'll be last. Yeah.
Leland,
Yes.
Devin,
Aye.
Richard,
Aye.
oops. Lost my place. Roger,
Aye.
Brent,
Aye.
Mary Jo,
Aye.
Matt,
Aye.
Jan,
Aye.
Braden,
Aye.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we did. Thank you.
and Jim.
Chair votes aye. So we have that established for the sheriff's salary. We accomplished something.
19 times I ever did.
About time.
We're moving forward. So awesome. Thank you, everybody. So backing up 1 page to page 7. I do feel like we're doing heavy lifting, right? You're gonna like set the box down just for a moment, but I'm gonna push it forward. So what we're contemplating now is the decision that we made last week. We do not have to undo that. We can just make another decision that replaces last week, right? So we have under this consideration the 6 elected official positions, salaries other than the sheriff. We had reviewed the average median salary for the 9 comparable counties. And we had previously, using that information, determined that we wanted to previously do a two-step, with the first step being an increase May 1 of 2024 to 95,979, which would have been a 9.7%, then 9.74% increase, and then a second step on January 1 of 2025 to 104,501, which would have been an additional 8.88% increase. That did not fall within the legal interpretation of resolution 2024-002 county commissioners passed. So the two things that are on paper before you is one, changing the salary to that final number that we had gotten to last week to 104,501 effective, or as of January 1 of 2025. Because that's greater than what it currently is, that would be effective dated May 1 of 2024, and then continuing that salary of 104,501 on January 1 of 2026. The other that I outlined here, with the two-step method, would be to increment the salary increase to 95,979 on January 1 of 2025, and then up to 104,501 a year later than what we had talked about last week on January 1 of 2026. So questions and discussions around that, those or others, ideas?
So first question, would be just for clarification purposes, yet again, if we started the salaries on as written January 1 of 2025 and either step, it doesn't matter, it'd go into effect May 1st because it is an increase. Okay. Get that one out of the way. Secondly, as far as I'm concerned, seeing as we gave a single step increase to the sheriff, I don't see why we couldn't do a single step for everybody else, because at that point, you know, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. Yeah, it's gonna, I see, you know, maybe a little bit of backlash or whatever you want to call it, as well as some other interference that other people get to deal with, but you know, I don't see it not being fair in that aspect. And then my second question would be, would these salaries also get the across the board raise?
No, these salaries would be what we established to be the salaries as of January 1, 2025 and 2026.
Okay, just wanted
But we're also getting a raise 6 months, 7 months, almost 8 months early.
Correct.
Yeah.
Roger.
Under elected official salaries, other than the sheriff, I think on May 1st, it says effective May 1st, 2024, all 6 salaries in the increase and blah, 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 and it goes on like this. And I think we should step 1. Or number 1 under that.
Okay.
Sorry, so you think with the first boxes? So I just want to be clear.
Do we want to label the boxes as 1 or 2 or?
Yeah.
Why don't we do A and B?
A and
Yeah,
B.
that's a
I
good
think-
idea.
Option A being the top one and option B being the bottom.
So option A is it's 104,501
January 1 of 2025.
and the same the 26.
Yeah.
Who would you say, me?
Yeah.
That was
A.
it, yeah.
Okay. Then option B is the 2-step, so it's 95,979 January 1 of 25. And then 104,501 January 1 of 26.
So just to clarify, Roger, you are in favor of option A, correct? That top box.
I'm not the sharpest tool in the shed, but for some reason the dates don't work.
So,
For me.
Roger, what's
All 6 salaries. Up here, all 6 salaries at the present time are 87,456.
That's an outline of what we decided last week.
so what
And
that's
that's what,
Why it
I
doesn't
think
make
that's
sense.
where he said, that's why it doesn't make sense.
Yes,
So-
so that's what we decided last week and it doesn't.
so what you're looking at there, Roger, those numbers, 87,456 is the current salary.
Okay,
And then we determined what the average median salaries were across the 6 positions. Using all 9 counties,
okay,
and the difference between 87,456 and 95,979 was 85,23. That's what that number is.
Okay,
So really, the end game, like Richard was just explaining, that or the end result of that conversation last week was a 95,979 salary, and then another 8,522 brought us to the 104,501. So when I just back up and clarify, the 87,456 plus the difference between the average median salaries and the 87,456 is 17,000. Hold on page
17,046.
yeah, on page 16 of your packet, just so that way Roger and everybody can follow along. If you go to page 16 of the packet, this might help. It's the page that has the red bar on the top.
In black and white.
Yeah, the red one and black and white. Yeah, now you know what color. People can't see color. Page 16 is that.
That won't be fun. Oh, yeah, well, then I gotta know what to do.
What you asked for.
Copy of the packet, exactly.
Roger, did you find page 16?
yep,
Okay, so very top, the current salaries
yes,
are 87,456.
right,
The median is 104,575,
right,
right?
It's different.
The average median is 103,507 on line 56.
okay,
So we're using the,
I think we took the average median and then did a percentage of increase on it. And then how we got to E4. We did like average median and then plus.
so whatever, where are our minutes from last week?
Did the average median.
Average median,
And
did we-
Because we're trying to do a pat percentage first, and then that changed the percentage for the second one, and then that's why the number is gonna quite jive.
yeah, so what I'm looking at though is I may have picked up the wrong numbers because. And do we have, Diane, do we have the actual amounts in our minutes from last week?
Page 18, look at page 18, it gives the chart that you want, I think.
Look at you go, Mary Jo. Yes, thank you. That's exactly what I was looking for. So, because the other page did not include the county commissioners. Got it. Okay, so page 18 in our packets. Whew, you're a lifesaver tonight. Yeah.
He's on fire.
On page 18, when you look at line 108, the current salary is 87,456. And then line 124, the average median is 104,501. Line 125 shows that there's a difference of $17,045. That 17,045 plus the 87,456 is 104,501. What we had done last week was we divided that into two steps, which is what you see in the yellow highlighted area, lines 128 through 132. Which is divided at 50-50. So, Roger, the 87,456 plus the 17,045 is the 104,501. And what you're seeing on this slide is, or on this page rather, is that option. That's the first box, option A, box A. We good?
we good, yeah,
I'm much better because I'm now less confused.
Chair lost himself.
It's like,
I believe that on the, going all the way back, page 7, the two charts. I think chart B and number 2. It's close to what we had discussed, or I would say reach consensus on last line before it was a 2-step. It got it at 104. But
it goes to the 104, January 1 of 2025, based on which is where what we had decided on last week. So,
Motion to adopt option A.
all right,
Second.
Devin made that motion and Mary Jo seconded that. Other questions or clarifications? We're talking now about the salary going to 104,501 January 1 of 2025 and staying that way through the end of 2026. Other thoughts?
Based on what we've done, it seems like the right thing to do.
Right, yeah. Very good. If there's no other comments or questions about that. Thank you for helping me, keep me moving, point in the right, straightforward direction.
But then maybe you clarify this really, but I want to make sure if I have it on copy. You under option A, your aspect you said effective May 1, 2025,
2024.
so that's 20.
You clarified that earlier.
Yeah, it was just clarifying that, yeah. I got
He's a little busy.
I got 3 of the 4.
I thought you did, and I want to make
Yeah.
sure it's on TV then for the record.
So I'll ask Diane to call the roll here in a second, but just again, to state that. For the salaries for the assessor, auditor, clerk, coroner, treasurer, and county commissioners. That the decision, the motion is to move that salary to 104,501 on January 1 of 2025. And keep it at that same amount for January 1 of 2026. And because the 104,501 is greater than the current salary of 87,456. That would go into effect May 1 of 2024. So Diane.
Leland,
Yes.
Devin,
Aye.
Richard,
Aye.
Roger,
Aye.
Brent,
Aye.
Mary Jo,
Aye.
Matt,
I'm gonna vote present.
Abstaining.
These guys are fighting.
Well, I do the.
All right. Yes.
Yeah, you're right, Brent.
okay, Jan,
Aye.
and Braden.
Aye.
Okay, oh, Jim.
Chair votes aye as well. So we have 9 supporting and that motion passes. Okay, we're getting closer to celebrating.
You guys have. Yeah.
Okay. Let me see page 21. So if I could ask you all to move to page 21. This is item 6. You're familiar with this list. It's slightly formatted slightly different than you've seen it before, but it's the same list of items. That we've been referring to as the salary considerations is what we were calling it before. Everybody find that page 21?
Are we doing 21? Yeah, it's like 21.
There you go. Yeah, it's starting point. Top says April 22, item 6, page 21. Find that okay, Mary Jo?
Yeah,
Okay.
so we're gonna skip over the resolution for right now.
No. What, just on a roll?
Just checking.
Yes, thanks. Let's do this since we're here. We'll come back to the resolution, continue feeling good about the
No
decisions we made.
Just wanna know where we are.
I've held it together for 5 weeks, so these are
Very well.
the salary considerations that we had. These talking points, the intention for these are threefold. One, so that when we reconvene prior to May 1 of 2026, we know how we got to where we got back in 2024. Second is, it's really important that all of us sort of say the same thing. So we're thinking the same thing about how we got to where we are. And this has just been capturing those thoughts along the way from like the first or second week, I believe, starting through last week. And the third is so that with staff's help, we can send communication to the media. And these talking points can be used to support the same thing that we're saying. Right. So after reviewing these items, you have anything to add, anything that you'd like to strike, anything that you'd like to enhance or change. Very open to any of those ideas. Yes, sir.
Under purpose, bottom bullet, salary increases shall be effective as to all county commissioners and elected officials regardless of their term. Seems a little open-ended, so it could be construed that even after the end of their term. Regardless of their term.
Regardless of length of the time in office. Or in position.
Or just something to bring it in when the term, you know. Vision shuts it off.
Yeah, I think the intention here was to say that if somebody had just been elected or had been in the position for 10 years, that the decision applied the same.
What about
Equally.
tenure in office instead of term in office then, if that was the intent?
That works for me.
Yeah, too.
Tenure.
Tenure instead of term.
I just hate to see keep somebody find it out. Nobody does.
No. Cool.
Dang, I didn't realize we had meeting for 11 hours so far.
That combines all this, but total now.
I can't imagine what these folks put in.
I think, from what I've read on Mason County literature, voters seem to be top consideration on a lot of things, so this might be nitpicky, but maybe moving consideration for Clark County voters and residents to the first, just for keep it in line with.
That's cool. So that is. So just move into the first under that.
Yeah, that was the, yeah, not that was the first one. Yeah, just under that section of the 10.
Okay.
That's really a good idea.
It is.
So on,
This thing, it says.
Yeah.
Goes to the top of this section up here.
so on page 22, the last bullet that says above the second to the last bullet, the sub bullet above the last bullet, consideration for Mason County voters and residents would be moved to the top of the list, which is on page 21 under consideration. The Salary Commission Incorporated establishing the salary schedule decision.
Can I get an addition to the secondary bullet point of cost of living in COLA for statewide elected officials to be referred as ATV for Mason County? Or something to that effect? Mason County prefers to use the term ATV instead of COLA.
No one knows what that means.
Yeah,
Across the board, ATV.
I
Across
don't
the
think
board.
anybody else other than Mason County knows what that means.
It's also generally, this is also going to be released to Mason County residents and other Mason County strip. I just want to make sure that we're addressing it to not only what other counties and other people and the our general voters would understand, but also what our, put it in terms our politicians and elected officials and also our county people would normally use.
My
Maybe look at the
thoughts,
where it says COLA, that's in parentheses, say COLA/ATV.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying is
Yeah.
something
Yeah,
in there.
my thought is that the residents of Mason County have no idea what ATV means. Because the typically commonly used term would
But if
be.
you put it as COLA, they would know.
So the reason that I would not do that is because the COLA for statewide officials and the ATV for the county may not be the same. So the COLA that's established for statewide elected officials is set by the state salary commission. It's not what the county uses for its ATV. So the slash for me would be not to say the same thing. I would suggest that we just keep it at cost of living adjustment, because that I do think is the. Okay. What most.
I didn't know what ATV was when I was reading through it, just first time I'd seen it.
I know what you're saying, but I think we're taking the.
I just want to make sure that everybody's clear on not only what COLA is, but ATV, because ATV's been referred to several times over the course of these meetings and whatnot.
It might be a little bit confusing for Mary, but she can call me anytime.
I think she's got it.
Yeah. Any other thoughts on this? I'd entertain a motion. This is a simple majority vote to adopt these as our talking points and our salary considerations. So nice, Brent, thank you. Okay, come on.
Second.
Okay, second, Devin, do you have something else to add?
No, I was clarifying what you were saying, but I understand, so.
Okay, any other comments or questions? All in favor of approving these as our talking points and salary considerations, say aye.
Aye.
Oh, I said I.
Aye, and Jan said aye too. I saw her lips move. Anybody opposed? Very good, all right. To cover for the chair, I would offer that we take a 10-minute recess right now, and during that time, I'll work with Diane to fill out the resolution so that it's completed prior to us taking a vote for that. So why don't we come back at 6:32? All right, we're good.
To be fair, don't Marines eat grandmas, so.
You're back.
We're back live. All right, so
Red tastes like.
welcome back, everybody. So during the break, and Braden and Jan, for your benefit, what Diane speedily did was on pages 19 and 20 of the packet is the resolution. We all have a fresh copy of that. The only additions to what was in the packet are filling in the amounts that we previously passed. On that chart on the second page of the resolution, there were some extra words in the first box. So the first box only needs to say assessor. And I copied all the titles there. So we have assessor, auditor, clerk, coroner, county commissioner, sheriff, and treasurer. From the January 1, 2025 and January 1, 2026 salaries for all the positions except for the sheriff is 104,501, as we previously have set those salaries. And the sheriff's salary for both Jan 1 of 2025 and 2026 is 164,232. So any questions, Jan or Braden, about that, just to make sure, because I know that you didn't have the updates, but that's what we did, was we just print that copy off. So with that said, what we want to do is review this resolution, and what I did in preparing this was the whereas statements came directly out of the county commissioner's resolution 2024-002. And each sentence of that paragraph was broken out in there. Brent.
Just to be picking, how can resolution be 2024-01 be more formed in 24-02? How can we make a resolution before we were even a committee?
So Doug, do you want to explain the resolution numbers?
The The original resolution number for forming this commission was 2024-02.
That was a county commissioner number.
Yeah.
This is not a county commissioner number, this is a big salary commission number. So I
So
use
how
the
do we
same,
know the difference? It still says resolution on both.
because everybody does resolutions.
Underneath there, this one has a resolution of the Mason County Citizens Commission on Salary for Elected Officials, the Salary Commission. On 2024-002, in the same spot, it says a resolution of the Board of County Commissioners of Mason County, establishing the Mason County Citizens Commission on Salaries for Elected Officials pursuant to RCW 36.17.024. So
That's it. I was
that's
just
it.
being-
Nope, it's a good question. Yeah, because and the -001 assumes that in 2024, we will not pass more than 99 resolutions.
That's the same thing to answer.
So, yeah, that's the
Go ahead.
cool. Anything else?
Down. The third whereas in the bottom,
It's so whereas salary increases.
do we wanna change? The last, it's not part of it to
And.
tenure instead of term. We did that.
This
for our
wording,
talking points.
this wording came directly out of the Board of County Commissioners resolution. That was the wording that was used in their
Just go with
resolution. So I just, for consistency, might just use theirs. Yes, everybody else feels strongly to change that. Eli's.
I make a motion that this be accepted as printed, read, and thoroughly discussed.
Okay, thank you, Roger. Is there a second?
Sure, I'll second it.
Thank you, Devin.
Who
Any other,
seconded, Devin?
Devin, any other questions or? Thoughts? Although this is a simple majority, because we're not setting salaries with this, we're just passing a resolution, according to Mr. Whitehead. So all those in favor of resolution number 2024-01 are first.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed. Okay, we're getting closer to celebrating.
We can have our cake and eat it too at that point.
Great, so we only have one more item on our agenda for tonight. And that starts on page 23 of your packet. This was also referenced in the email exchange, the questions and Tim Whitehead's responses that we looked at earlier. So looking back, what we were at the commission were trying to, please correct me if I'm off base, because I've been on my rocker a couple times tonight. What we were trying to accomplish was to ensure that when there's new members that come onto the commission, that there's some experience to go along with them about what had happened in the past and for that continuity. So we approved our bylaws, we held out section 4 of those bylaws for a week to try and get wording around how to stagger things. At the top of page 23 is that wording, which essentially said that half of the commission, 3 of the 6 drawn by lot and 2 of the 4 appointed would end their term in December 31 of 2025. And that the initial term of all other commissioners would be December 31 of 2026. In reviewing this with Mr. Whitehead, what we determined was that the resolution stated, and the last sentence of what we had already approved is that when there's a vacancy on this commission, and within 30 days, a successor shall be selected and appointed to fill the unexpired term in the same manner as the initial appointment, meant that if we had those 50% step away in after December 31 of 2025, in January, or 30 days thereafter, there would be 2 new appointed people and 3 new people drawn by lot. And they would fill the unexpired terms, which would also be to December 31 of 2026. So everybody's term would be done. And then at that point, there's no, what Tim, sorry, I keep on bouncing back between formalities, but what he and I sort of uncovered was is that there should be there's no givens, right? So in other words, anybody that's appointed to this commission at that point, they may or may not be reappointed by the Board of County Commissioners. You have to go through that process again, right? If you're drawn by lot, then the assumption is that you would be continuing, right? Unless you stepped away. So in any event, what we passed didn't really accomplish our objective of staggering terms.
What you're saying is that if someone steps out early, then they fill that position. And then at the end of the original term, that person would then be gone anyway.
Right.
And you start with a fresh slate.
Right.
No matter what.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. So. How do we get to the objective? And that's what the rest of the document here is. So now that so just to review, our initial commission terms run from March of 2024 through December of 2026. We're all eligible to continue for a second term. No salary commissioner may serve more than 2 terms, either consecutively or separate at different times. And so understanding the frequency and the intent to stagger terms and ensure that there's some continuity on the commission for the 3rd round of salary decisions, which would require a decision to file salary by May 1 of 2028. The intent to stagger terms could be accomplished. That actually can't be accomplished by the current resolution language. But which is options are A and B. So A doesn't really accomplish that goal. So B is what's on the next page, which says that the term of all commissioners will be December 31, 2026. During its meetings in early 2026, prior to May 1, 2026, the salary commission will be selected. Will select 3 of the 6 commissioners from 1 from each district selected by lot, and 2 of the 4 appointed by the Board of County Commissioners to serve only 1 term. So
The first part of that, says the initial term of all commissioners will be December 31st, 2026.
correct.
Should say the initial term of all commissioners will terminate December 31st.
I think it's the same thing. It's the first term of all of us is December 31 of 2026, and that's the language. So what the second sentence then says is that if we,
It's not really a good sentence.
well,
I'm sorry, I'm majoring in English.
I was gonna ask that.
So
Right.
It says the initial term of all commissioners will be. A term isn't one date. I mean, a term will.
I can't say for certain, Mary Jo, but the language that was in here, I think, was taken directly out of the county commissioner's resolution.
The initial term of all commissioners.
Well, they need Mary Jo back on there.
So, yeah,
You're on again.
so, yeah, I don't disagree.
This isn't anything we're just approving anyway, so it's.
We are gonna be approving something, because if we leave it the same. What we did, if we want to pursue the objective. And we leave what we did the same, then. It doesn't accomplish that objective. If we don't care about accomplishing that objective anymore, then I would strike any of the additional language. And just say the initial term of all commissioners. So I will give you taking the other out. All commissioners will be December 31, 2026. And then the rest of our bylaws would kick in.
So the only other option is to ask the group to run a second term and the other half to step down after the first.
That's what the intention of this additional language is trying to get at. And the presumption then is that people. So a couple of things could happen, right? So what we're talking about is 2.5 years from now, roughly. Some people may say, hey, I've done this once and I did it again in early 2026. It's been a lot of fun. But I'm okay not continuing. And in that case, there's some natural staggering that could occur. Presuming that's not the case, what this language is intending to try and accomplish is to build in that staggering.
Yet again, the major problem that I have still, and I don't see a way around it unless the basis for this is actually changed, is even if we draw short straws, there's no guarantee that anybody is going to be able to continue, period. Whether they step down or not, whether they still serve the full term or not, there's no guarantee that anybody's going to be able to continue, period. Like you stated earlier, you know, the commissioners have the option to renew your term. And however, the 3 people of the 6 people that would choose to stay for a second term still possibly may not get that second term because it's still chosen by lot. So so either way, all six people chosen by lot are going to change every 2 years guaranteed.
That's not true. So those drawn by lot have the potential that they can serve 2 consecutive terms.
How would they do that unless they were drawn by lot again?
The resolution, the county commissioners resolution states that they can have 2 terms. So the only way that they would not continue is if they chose not to continue.
Okay.
Yeah, Roger.
No, that was, you ended up with everything was just fine.
Okay. Devin.
So the three people, well, there's 6 people who were drawn by lot and 3 are gonna go. And they'll likely never return. They could be appointed at some point and be on the other side of this fence, this coin, so to speak. But likely that they won't. And so my concern is the 4 that were appointed by the commissioner, 2 of them will leave. Can we have some sort of verbiage in here where they're not allowed to be reappointed until after the next session, so that what we don't have is we have 6 people leave. Right, 4 from my county, not right, yeah, 3 people from that were drawn by lot and 2 people were appointed, and then those 2 people just get reappointed. That's what I want to do.
Yeah, so and Tim and I talked about that. We can't as a salary commission dictate to the board of county commissioners what they can and can't do. So what we can do is try and govern ourselves, and we do that through the bylaws. And the bylaws would then say, Jim and Mary Jo, your short straw's been drawn, and ask Mary Jo and Jim not to reapply for appointment. Or if the Board of County Commissioners at that point felt so strongly that they wanted us, that then we would decline. I can only speak for myself. I would not ever want to speak for Mary Jo. But if the bylaws said that this is the intention, and I was part of that intention, because this is only happening for the initial salary commission, those of us around the table, I would not personally feel correct in allowing myself to be reappointed. And if I was reappointed against my will, I would not accept. I would decline that or do whatever, because that was the desire of the bylaws. That's just how I would react to it. But we can't tell the county commissioners that you must not.
So I think what you're kind of alluding to is like some form of term limit. That was your.
Yeah, but there's an imbalance, I guess is my concern. There's an imbalance between the two sides of the coin here, so to speak. And that imbalance can be. The way we have our terms set up right now, that imbalance can be exploited. To your point, maybe that person doesn't agree to rejoin. But we're still leaving that door open. We're still leaving that. We're still leaving it open.
Yeah, I don't think there's a way that we can close it completely.
Can we say that the appointees that have drawn the short straw or by lot or whatever, however you want to phrase that, must have a one-term gap between their two terms? That would prevent, but it would prevent the board appointed returning all at once.
The whole thing was to keep continuity.
Yeah, I guess the other part that I would add, other than my own personal example, Devin, is that. I'll tell, you may choose to. Not continue on having this chair after I say this, but if
Nice try.
Yeah, you've done a good job so far.
If the bylaws, if we made this change and I knew the intent was to stagger. And I saw that there was a nomination, like Mary Jo's drew the short straw, and she said, well. The heck with that bylaws, I want to go for this and do it a couple more rounds. I would submit or share with the Board of County Commissioners the resolution and the intent of our bylaw language and ask them to not appoint Mary Jo. So I have that ability. I can't dictate to the Board of County Commissioners what to do, but I can ask, file, I can share a perspective on, that this is why the Salary Commission put that into it.
So there are some checks and balances today.
It's best I got. Not that I wouldn't want you, I'm just saying to be the hard straw.
She's looking over at you like, I knew.
I'm wondering if there's no hurry on this particular item. If we might want to table it to sometime in the future so that we can talk to the county commissioners and tell them that we're concerned about continuity. And are they concerned about it?
It's not a bad idea.
I'll tell you from my perspective, and see what Mark's is, but our commission is here to govern ourselves. Even this morning during the Board of County Commissioners comments, Chair Netherlands said this is our barbecue. So I don't think that we should be seeking their counsel. I do plan to probably debrief with Chair Netherland and Auditor Dunkel and Administrator Neary and Diane, just to say, here's what we experienced when he threw us onto that barbecue pit. And here's how we survived it and got to the other side. But Mark, I don't know if you have anything to add about how the Board of County Commissioners resolution worked, that process, but I don't think it's their call to.
Agree. You guys.
So we need to
Govern
know that
yourself.
discussion, that they're not our, there's not a hierarchy between us and
No, I
them.
was just wondering if they had considered that when they did the resolution. And is that something that they would be concerned about?
If they did and it became a concern, they could always change that resolution and require the commission to revisit it. Yeah, but I don't think it happens the other way around. Okay.
You could, as a committee, make a recommendation to the county commissioners
Okay.
that you have a concern with everybody expiring at the same time. And if they change their resolution, so that way it could be staggered. How that would happen, I don't know, but we can figure it out.
You're retired.
Yeah.
I get where you're going. I see where you're laying down. So that, okay, thank you for that.
Okay.
So that would be an option.
Just a recommendation.
Yeah.
We can make that as a recommendation. What we lose control over at that point is then how they go about doing so.
Yeah, I think. The more realistic one is gonna be, life happens. Between now and a year and a half from now, somebody may not be able to serve for, health reasons. Job reasons, grandkid reasons, and so there may be somebody that wants to resign prior to the next, before their 2-year term is up. That
The only problem would be is if the whole lot says, we're done with this, and walks out the door, and then you gotta start from scratch, no matter what.
So currently, the way that our bylaws, the salary commission's bylaws read, would require me to call a salary commission meeting sometime before December 31 of 2025 to identify what we have currently adopted in our bylaws to identify who would be removed at that point. That would be a meeting prior to, presumably, when we would be deciding on our next salary setting, which is due May 1 of 2026. So we can meet as many times or as often or as frequently as the salary commission would like. But our deadline is May 1 of 2026. So we may want to start the process a little sooner than March 23rd or 24th of 2026. That said, we have an approach in place now, so we may want to have additional information that we think about over the next 2 years. But the way that, again, to my point, the way the current bylaws read is I would need to call a meeting sometime prior to December 31 of 2025 to identify which 3 drawn by lot and which of the 2 appointed would be asked to step down.
I say we play war or slapjack for it.
Well, that
Make
works
it
too.
fun.
So I'm just letting you know, like, right? That is where we currently sit right now.
I make a motion, we meet once a week for a barbecue.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Once a week.
No.
I think he was joking.
Yeah, I know. That's all I can think
I was
of.
just like, man.
Adding another one,
I know.
lobster rolls.
Yeah.
Sheriff, what's your actual question?
So,
So would you suggest reconvening the group in November of 25, October? I don't know.
sometime before I didn't think that we would be contemplating this. I honestly thought that we would find a way to either A, we state what's in the resolution, the county commissioner's resolution, and that all of our terms ends December 31 of 2026. So we would change, and then the sentence that upon vacancies in any position on the commission within 30 days, a successor shall be selected to and appointed to fill the unexpired term in the same manner as initial appointment. That would be the section for it. Or I was offering the language to try and fulfill the original objective that the commission had of staggering terms. The only way that I could think to do that would be to do what was explained and what I explained here. To Devin's point, there's a little gap, but I think there's also, to Richard's point, some checks and balances in that I can't predict what the county commissioners would say with the recommendation, but I would believe that at least it would be listened to. So
I think that the commissioners would understand the intent of trying to stagger to create some consistency that remained on the board all the time. So I think that I'm not speaking for the board,
right,
but I'm saying that Mark Neary thinks that the commission would say, we recognize what you're trying to do here and would be willing to change something if they needed to. How you implement that staggering, don't know.
So at that point, I think it becomes a board of county commissioners sort of, that would be part of our recommendation, would be the salary commission with the detail that goes into this, believes that staggering terms would make sense. And please tell us how you see that happening, because they wrote the original implementing resolution. To get there right now, if we wanted to pursue that, I would recommend a change that just has the 2 sentences that I read, that the initial term of all commissioners will be through, and we could work on the wording to Mary Jo's point, will be
until December 31st.
until, and then the last sentence on that page, which is in black. And then that way we have bylaws that are clear to us about what's happening, and we don't risk forcing off half of the commission for our deliberations at the beginning of 2026
Yeah.
unnecessarily, which is where we currently stand. And so we're not really accomplishing that kind of continuity of knowledge thing. So would that make sense?
So you get time to.
Apparently not. I'd like to go now.
Yeah, good job.
So let me just review what that is. So we would replace section 4 in our bylaws to read the initial term of all salary commissioners will be until December 31, 2026. Upon vacancies in any position on the commission, and within 30 days, a successor shall be selected to and appointed to fill the unexpired term in the same manner as the initial appointment.
Makes sense to me.
Yep.
This is most of the way there.
It basically puts in place the original intent of the Board of County Commissioners.
And puts the on side on them to figure out their.
During my debrief, which will happen, I hope sometime in June. I can bring this up and say, this is something that the Salary Commission very early on, as a first or second meeting, identified that was important to stagger the knowledge. And that's not the way that we understand, or the deputy prosecutor understands, that the original resolution passed was, and so therefore we would ask that the Board of County Commissioners consider how to change that resolution to stagger the salary commissioners' terms.
Ask for guidance.
No, at that point, we're asking them to do it.
Yeah, it's not guidance at that point.
Yeah. Does that make sense, Diane? So, I'd entertain a motion for this, to replace section. Did you move already? No. Oh, to replace section 4 of the bylaws. The current section 4 of the bylaws to say the initial term of all salary commissioners will be until December 31, 2026.
Thank you for cleaning up that sentence for me.
You're welcome. Upon vacancies in any position on the commission and within 30 days, successors shall be selected to and appointed to fill the unexpired term in the same manner as the initial appointment. Do I hear a motion for that?
I would make a motion to approve. I'll make a motion on what you just said. That we. Section 4, the initial term of all other commissioners will. Be until December 31st, 2026. On vacancies in any position on the commission and within 30 days. A successor shall be selected and appointed to fill the unexpired term in the same manner as the initial appointment.
Second.
I'd second that.
Brent, thank you. Any other discussion or thoughts on that? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion and change to our bylaws is adopted.
Cool.
Yeah. So not seeing anybody for public comment, we don't have any of that. As far as the go to the order, I would just personally want to say thank you. You know, you throw 10 random people into a room, it's sort of like a jury process. You don't know exactly what you're going to get. I don't know of a single person on the salary commission that has not engaged, not contributed, not provided some very valuable questions and feedback, and altered the process. So that's been very fulfilling for me. I think we are pursuing this the way that was intended, our work, that is. I'd also like to thank Mark and Diane and Mary. We can pass that along to her, she's not sitting there right now, Mackenzie, whoever was supporting Mackenzie and Diane. And anybody else that was running copies, or Tim Whitehead, very much so. He's spent, like I said, a significant amount of time helping clarify things to make sure that we were on the right track and we didn't have to back up and do it once again. So thank you to all of those support folks as well.
Lee, thank you.
I would also like to add, thank you to our chair, Jim.
Yes.
You've done a phenomenal job leading this and grabbing things, grabbing it by the reins and just doing what you need to do, using your own time, creating the, whatever you call it, spreadsheets, there you go. Brain fart, sorry. But creating the spreadsheets, creating the resolution, drafting up, the different, wording and all that, you've done a phenomenal job and just want to say thank you. And then also thank you to everybody else for not being a complete brick wall when we come to trying to make these decisions, having an open mind and allowing compromise, no matter what side of the fence we stand on, how we were appointed. And I just wanted to say thank you.
Okay.
Good job.
Very good group.
Very good job.
My only disappointment,
Jan even attended while she's on vacation.
I know, Jan, I mean, it's Spain, dude. Spain, oh, Europe?
It's 3 a.m.
It's what time?
3 a.m. in Portugal.
Good Lord, go to bed, woman.
I would say my only disappointment is that I never got to meet your pup, Braden. So one day, hopefully I'll get to meet him.
Our unofficial mascot.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yep.
Mascot of the commission, here we go.
Oh,
There he goes.
You're breaking out something fierce, man.
yeah, it was an interesting process. Doing this whole thing remotely is kind of confusing. Like you're trying to figure things out. Character really. Am I breaking up?
Yeah, backing up a bit, but I think we got the gist of it.
Must
Yeah.
be breaking up.
And we appreciate your hard work, Braden. Thank you. Yeah, so Roger.
This third, whereas the salary.
Well, yeah.
Yes, I will sign the second page of the document under the signature on the back as soon as we're finished. On behalf of the commissioner.
Oh, okay, I thought we did.
I'll sign your copy as a memento if you'd like as well.
We can distribute the official sign copy.
We'll do that when everybody's signature's on there, but
Your book.
Yeah.
See you
All right.
next year.
So
right, Brent.
since this is for good of the order. Can I just throw it out there that next time we meet or the time after, that we consider having Mr. Whitehead in more attendance since he's had such a significant impact over our whole process
Mhm.
in a week or two.
Yeah, certainly.
Maybe it's just, you should keep closer in touch with him from the get-go.
I have all of his phone numbers now. And all of your phone numbers too. I don't know the answer to that question.
Batman.
So, thank you, Brent. Good suggestion. There's not anything else. I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
I second it.
I submitted a motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.